Hello, we're here with a panel of 8th grade AVID students, and we're meeting with Mr. Whedon, our current school principal. He is our leader of our school, and we're going to be talking a little bit with him about the culture of Narcoossee Middle School.
Mr. Whedon, can you name your current culture? By naming it, you make it actionable.
Well, the current culture is always something that kind of runs through a school, and the culture of this school, I've been here for 3 years, and the culture of our school has really been one of staff and students taking pride in the school.
Mr. Whedon, what role does culture play in importance at our school, and how does AVID fit into that role?
Well, it's the culture is everything. We can have all the procedures we want, we can have all the rules we want, we can have all these things in place, but if we don't have a good, strong culture, if people don't really care, if collaboration and culture isn't at the root of that, then none of those other things matter. So AVID is kind of the key to the whole thing, because that collaborative piece, especially in that spirit of working together, is what AVID's all about. I mean, anytime I come into this classroom, what do I see? I see a group of students who are working together, that have bonded together, have good relationships with the teachers, and we try to emulate that throughout the campus, not just in the AVID electives. So AVID's critical to keeping that culture of collaboration in learning.
Mr. Whedon, how do you utilize data to support initiatives at NCMS so that positive culture is maintained?
Well, we use data now more and more. We're getting more and more data. We give surveys in both the fall and the spring that measure the culture of the school and the climate of the school. And we act on that accordingly. So for example, some of our data for connectedness to the school has dropped off a little bit during the pandemic, with so many students being remote last year, and students coming back this year. We have 7th graders who haven't been in school since 5th grade, and 6th graders haven't been in school since 4th grade. And you guys, really, some of you guys were here since you were 6th graders. And so some of those areas, like really that sense of belonging, we've tried to really put things in place to correct that. Same thing with bringing on a lot of new staff members. We looked at that data. So using that survey data for the social emotional well-being of students has been really critical in a lot of the decisions that we've made over the past couple of years. And then obviously our NWEA data as well, to really measure how our students are showing progress in reading, in math, and in science has been critical to a lot of the decisions that we make. And then what we're seeing, as far as the AVID elective goes, and the fact that we're still seeing so many students who want to be in the AVID elective, who are pressing to get into the AVID elective, we use that as well as a data point.
Mr. Whedon, how important do you feel building relational capacity is with students and staff?
Oh, I think it's the key to everything. And we talked about that as a staff before the students even came back, is that the most important thing we could do is spend time building relationships and making sure the students feel like they belong here and that the teachers care about them.
Okay, our panel of 8th graders are here to interview Mr. Whedon, and we are moving on to the second category, which is our leadership domain. So we're going to ask Mr. Whedon some questions about his leadership here at NCMS.
Mr. Whedon, does your school community know your vision, core principles, and mission for your site, in essence, your why?
Yeah, so any time we have an avenue, whether that's a SAC meeting or literature that we put out, we let them know that we are community learners and that we believe every student can learn and will learn given the correct resources. So yes, it is a big piece that we try to get out to the community wherever we can, and whether that's something like a jingle mingle or the literature that we put out at the choice fair each year as parents are coming through, we try to make sure that everybody knows what we're all about.
What core strategies did you prioritize this year as students and staff returned to campus, and how did you communicate these school-wide?
Well, first and foremost, we talked about relationships and getting students acclimated back to school this year with everybody coming back from remote learning. With specifically talking about AVID, we really focus on organization to start the school year. We decided that we were going to kind of hit with core, one area at a time, and so we started with the organization, and now we're moving more into inquiry with the focused note taking. But we have communicated that through. We have all kinds of different ways we communicate with staff, but we had 7 days of pre-planning before the teachers arrive, and we spent a good portion of that really talking about the social emotional needs of students. First and foremost, and making sure that that was taken care of.
Next, we're going to speak with Mr. Whedon about the third domain, which is our instructional practices here at NCMS and how they are actually integrated with everything we do that's AVID.
Mr. Whedon, is there academic rigorous preparedness happening at your site with high expectations and common understanding of those expectations for all students?
Yes, and again, that's if we are an AVID school, that's the absolute core of it. That's why AVID exists, is to make sure that all students are hitting high expectations. So the way we define high expectations at our school is that grade level standard being reached. And for our AVID students, it's taking it even above grade level standards. So we want our AVID students even going above. For example, how many of you guys are enrolled in either algebra or geometry right now as an 8th grader? So everybody, we're all taking high school level classes. So we're either at grade level or above grade level with what we expect out of our students.
And finally, our panel of 8th grade AVID students are going to speak of the fourth domain, which is the systems domain. And we're going to talk with Mr. Whedon about some school-wide systems and how AVID is integrated into those.
Mr. Whedon,
Mhm.
what school-wide system was most important as digital learners returned to face-to-face learning on campus, and what role did AVID play in helping students adjust?
It's hard to narrow it down to what was most important. Did you guys notice how many of you guys were digital last year or remote and weren't here much?
I think you were
was half
digital.
you.
Yeah, half and half.
Half and half.
But what we realized really quickly is that we kind of fell out of a lot of our systems. A lot of our systems kind of broke down last year. Just between all the digital learning and all the quarantines, and it really took us away from some of the things that we traditionally did here as an AVID school. And so kind of coming back this year, trying to determine, all right, which ones do we really want to focus on? It was hard to narrow it down because we learned real quickly again that our students and our teachers needed a little time to get back into what school looked like and what school felt like. So it was a tough start to the year. I think probably what was most important was getting you guys back to used to organizing yourselves and those becoming a student, those student skills. So that's why we focus so hard on binders, and we focus so hard on, and we're focusing now so hard on note taking and using those notes to study and review and master the standards that we talked about before. So I think that's the key, and I think that's still something we're working on. We still need a lot of work in that area, but I think that's key, especially for you 8th graders as you go to high school next year. It's just that the expectations are different at high school, and if you have those study skills already developed and you're comfortable with them, I can't tell you how many AVID students have come back once they go to high school and go, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I was an AVID student. My classmates are lost. They can't find anything in their backpack. They're failing their classes first semester. So I think that I think that's probably the most important thing we've done is that focus on organization. Even though, boy, we had a battle getting everyone to carry those binders and do those things, and we got some pushback from students on that. But the reason we kept driving that is because we wanted you to act as a student, behave as a student, and ultimately perform like a student. And we really felt like carrying that binder with you and learning to use that binder and take those notes was an important step for reestablishing yourself as a student.
Mr. Whedon, what initiative was new this year to AVID, and what impact did the initiative have on the AVID elective classes?
You know, we really wanted to enrich even more our AVID elective. And those of you that take AVID have always been a little shortchanged. So AVID, we want to build a well-rounded student, right? But if you were in AVID, you only got one other elective. And we were limited with the amount of kids who could be in AVID because we only had Miss Ned as a full-time teacher, and then we had one more teacher, I think, teaching 2 sections. So we just didn't have, we were limited in the amount of kids who got this opportunity. And then when the kids did get the opportunity, they had to give up an elective to do it. So as you guys know, everybody in the school is either required to take research or reading, which is important. But what we were able to do is get our district to agree that as an AVID demo school, we felt like a student who was an AVID was going to be learning and practicing their research and reading skills just as much, if not more, than the students who are in research and reading. And so it was agreed upon that as long as we embedded more intentionally the reading standards into the AVID classes and the reading instruction into the AVID classes, that we could exempt students in AVID from having to take research. And so what that did is that enabled us to be able to hire a teacher. We could hire a full-time AVID teacher, which is what brought Miss Kelly here. And so that gave us a chance to go out and get a phenomenal teacher to join Miss Ned, number one. It allowed us to get about 70 more kids into AVID, somewhere in about 70 to 75 more kids into AVID in the AVID elective than we've ever had before. And it gave all of you guys a chance to experience another elective, of which we have a lot of really awesome electives here, you know, whether it's the arts or CTE or STEM, the culinary, world languages. Our Spanish 1 classes, our high school Spanish 1 classes went through the roof this year. And I think the reason is because so many of you guys in AVID got an opportunity to take a world language. I think a lot of our AVID kids were going, and you guys were actually having less high school credits than some of your non-AVID because you weren't able to take Spanish 1, which was one of our high school classes that a lot of kids took. So that was one of the initiatives. And so what we've been doing is now we have to monitor though and make sure that our AVID students aren't falling behind their peers who are taking research in their reading skills. And so far with our first NWEA, it's showing that just as we predicted, our AVID students are reading at just as high a level, if not a higher level, than those that are just taking research.
Well, we'd like to thank our panel who have come to ask Mr. Whedon and interview him today in our 4 domains. And we'd like to thank Mr. Whedon for his time and all of his leadership. So thank you, Mr. Whedon.
Thank you guys, that was fun.